28, 1935, the first Flying Fortress took off from Boeing Field in Seattle, Washington. It was the first of many. The next 10 years would see over 12,000 B-17s follow that first Model 299 into the air as the war that consumed Europe and Asia ignited the globe. But the Fortress that could survive the devastating effects of war could not survive the cutting torch of peace. The aluminum overcast that had once darkened the skies over Europe was reduced to a tiny wisp of metallic cloud. Fewer than 12 B-17s are still airworthy today. 50 years after the first Flying Fortress took off from Boeing Field, 3 returned. The B-17 had been designed to carry bombs, but on this day, they carried only memories. Memories for the thousands of people assembled to welcome them home. For each person, the offbeat rumble of the radial engines carried a special meaning. These were the people who had built the B-17, had maintained it, and had flown it. Soon they would be listening to speeches, but first they wanted to see and touch the airplane that had made such an impact on their lives so many years ago. Memories, like the way it felt to be curled up in the ball turret, watching the war through the armored glass between the twin 50s. Or the way the tail gunners always seemed to get a crack at the fighters as they passed behind the bombers after their firing runs. Or what it was like to fly into a wall of flak during the bomb run, when any evasive action would impair the accuracy of the Norden bomb sight mounted in the nose. The B-17 touched a lot of lives in a lot of ways. First, there were the people who built it. Boeing Chairman T. Wilson.
It's my honor to be with you today and to welcome you on behalf of the Boeing Company to Seattle and to Boeing. For me, this is truly an inspiring event. Seldom in my life have I been privileged to be with so many who have served their country so well. As all of you know, we are here to recall and celebrate the first flight of the B-17. Most of you know that airplane better than I do, and the speaker to follow me, Ed Wells, knows it better than anyone at Boeing today. Ed Wells was assistant project engineer on the 299 program. He designed the flap system that gave the plane its operational performance. That was his first major contribution to the company, the first of many. It would take much of the afternoon to recite all of Ed's professional honors, but let me mention a few. He received the Lawrence Sperry Award for his outstanding...
Well, the Air Corps sent out a request for proposal in the summer of 1934, asking for companies to submit a prototype for a competitive fly-off, and they specified that it be a multi-engine airplane. They didn't say 2 or 3 or 4, but multi-engine, and the request for proposal asked for certain performance. At that time, it was about 2,000 pounds of bombs, 2,000 miles. Claire Egwood, who was president of the company at that time, had the wisdom to decide that multi-engine could mean 4, so he recommended that we go ahead with a 4-engine design, which was the design of the 299. A lot of its ability to take battle damage had to do with the type of wing structure that was employed, and that simply was a follow-through from what had been used on the monomail, the 247, the B9, and the airplanes that had preceded the 299. While the airplane was broken down into components, having the separate wing panels and body sections that could be built in units and assembled on the final assembly floor, made it possible to get a large production out of a relatively small factory.
Well, of course, we were working 3 shifts a day and basically 7 days a week, which certainly contributed to the high rate. And we had lots of people, you know, and it was very noisy, but it wasn't really confusing. We had the wing line, and we had the engine shop, and, you know, we had the final assembly, and, you know, it was just very compact, and of course it grew with the rates, you know.
Many of the changes were changes dictated by experience in combat. The first of these, of course, most obvious was the tail turret, which was installed first on the B-17E, and then additional armament and revisions to armament were made all throughout the life of the program to add the firepower where it was needed, or to add armor plate or protection of various kinds as required by combat experience. Using hindsight, of course, you could have designed it as a B-52, but without hindsight, there aren't very many changes that appeared to be necessary that didn't get made.
Even before the bombs began to fall on Pearl Harbor, many people were convinced that air power would be the decisive factor in the war that was threatening to engulf the world. In the B-17, Boeing had provided a stable bombing platform capable of withstanding tremendous punishment. It remained for the military to decide how to use it. One of the men who best understood the value of strategic bombing was General Curtis LeMay.
Our theory was bombing by daylight because of the precision sight we had to do the job. We also planned that we would have fighter escort, and not only that, attack airplanes to work over the flak on the missions. But we arrived in the war unprepared. We not only didn't have the bombers, we didn't have the fighters, and we didn't have the attack airplanes. Never got them during the war. So we had to use what we had and get the job done. Certainly without defeating German air power, there wouldn't have been any invasion, that's for sure. And the B-17 played a vital role in getting that job done.
The B-17 was able to go higher than our other bombers, for one thing. So that put the war up higher. And that was all to the good, because it got us up at least part of the way out of the flak and stuff. So the B-17, of course, was able to take, I think, more punishment than any of the rest of our bombers.
Well, I don't think that they were thinking about the strength of the airplane. They just knew that they had a weapon, and it was the only weapon that they had, and they were going to use it. And they did use it, and they used it with extreme effectiveness.
Boeing had provided the plane, and the generals had provided the strategy. But it was these people, the pilots and navigators and gunners and bombardiers and mechanics and armorers, who made it all work. The B-17 was their airplane. They had loved it, cursed it, sweated in it, frozen in it, and watched their friends die in it. Only they would ever know the feeling of flying a fortress to uncertainty. Each man alone with his thoughts amid the thunder of the engines.
When we finally got the B-17Fs and started going in deep penetration, we didn't have fighter escorts to go very far. We had P-47s, but they'd only go in a short ways, and then they'd have to leave us, and then the Germans would take over, and it scared us to death.
If you've ever been going down a highway about 60, 70 miles an hour and some guy swerves over and you get that feeling through you that you're going to be hit, well, that's that feeling you have for hours at a time. And after a while, you just accept it. It's like hanging. You say if you hang long enough, you get used to it.
You ask about being scared? Yes, we were scared. We were damn thankful when we were coming back because we lost a few of the boys there. And we felt good when we were coming across that coastline heading for England.
I flew them back in 43 on the F, E and F, whether it was open. And God, it was cold. Your hands would freeze. Your feet would get cold. God. You're frostbitten. The old masks would leak. Now ice about 2 inches thick, right along here. And one said that the two gunners in here is like two guys with jackhammers in a telephone booth. We had to, we took turns, you know, we had to make sure that we were out of each other's way. We were always bumping rears. And then the cartridge is on the floor. It's like a roller coaster.
When you look out the window, you look at 9 different points of view of what's going on in the war. And when you get together and compare notes, sometimes you don't all tell the same story because you see the war from a different angle.
Yeah, I kind of had in mind that we were probably so young we didn't know any better, or we wouldn't have been flying on those darn missions. That was my view of things, and of course we all felt, well, so-and-so is doing it, so I've got to do it, so we all did it. Well, it was a very nostalgic feeling, very nostalgic. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but when they started the engines out here, boy, we could feel it all over again, couldn't you, Ben?
You recognize that sound of those props from way out. They're different.
It's like seeing an old friend. And it's happy to see, we were very happy to see it again.